Hi, I'm Jeremy Kirk, Executive Editor with Information Security Media Group. I'm pleased to be speaking with Andrew Woodward, who's Executive Dean of Science at Edith Cowan University. Andrew, thank you very much for joining us.
All right, thanks Jeremy. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to come and have a chat.
What would you say is the state of readiness among businesses in regards to cybersecurity plans these days?
Yeah, look, if you're a large corporations are pretty adequately resourced and equipped to deal with the growing cyber threat. It's a really big challenge though for small to medium enterprise in terms of being able to get the right knowledge, find the right people, or look for the right outsourcing organisation to address not only a big cyber threat to their business, but also growing regulation and compliance requirements that they have.
I was going to ask you about regulation. How is regulation shaping the formulation of those plans?
Yeah, look, it's having a significant impact, but I think in a very positive way. Previously, there's been not a lot of attention paid to data breaches and really paying enough attention to the information that a lot of companies keep about us. I think that the changing in legislation, which is interestingly driven around data privacy, is actually changing the way in which companies look after your data and they approach cybersecurity and particularly incident response. Because there's a lot of, in the event of a breach, there's a lot of information you are required to give to legislators, so companies have no choice but to comply with that.
Did you get a sense there was a real uptick of interest when the mandatory breach notifications law came into effect in February in Australia?
Yes, obviously we had organisations had a lot of notice for that, so they had opportunity to get prepared for that. There's definitely been a far greater awareness, and also the C-levels and boards now really have to pay attention because there's consequences for them, particularly out in the region as well, not just Australia. If you look around, for example, somewhere like the Philippines, there are severe criminal penalties for a data breach occurring, so yeah. Look.
And how do you manage, is there a conflict between internal business needs and creating the cybersecurity plan? And what have you observed in that sort of give and take?
Yeah, look, that's always an ongoing tension, and someone new and zealous to the InfoSec role is always going to be keen to lock everything down. But the reality is security, the function and role of security is to support the core business and business needs. So security's role is to try and find a way to enable that business opportunity.
And what do you recommend for businesses that are sort of maybe just getting into this, resources? Where do they start?
Well, that's a difficult question. It really is to have a look to see what you've got in terms of what the government advice is, particularly is a good starting point. There'll definitely be there's always some frameworks, some reference points. There's certs. In Australia we have obviously the Australian Stimulus Directorate's now Essential 8 top 35 list. There's some really good starting points there for them. The big challenge though is of course trying to find the right skill set and the right people with actual cybersecurity expertise, because it's a really opportunistic landscape out there at the moment. So that really I think is the biggest challenge.
And when you say opportunistic landscape, what do you mean by that?
Well, there's a buck to be made out of cybersecurity, I suppose, and there's a lot of people who I'm sure they have the best of intentions and mean well, but it doesn't always result in good outcomes for an organisation. It's a really challenging, difficult landscape.
What would you say are the most sort of pain points that you see around organizations' experience when they're creating a cybersecurity plan?
Look, generally speaking, most organisations get what they need to do. They get how they need to do it. The challenge is really sticking to a solid implementation plan, and also just finding those people. The skills gap and shortage is just, it's really big and it's getting larger. There's predictions of, in the hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of shortage of qualified cybersecurity skilled people.
And that's not a shortage that's expected to abate anytime soon?
No, it's only getting bigger, not smaller. So that is, I think, the biggest pain point for a lot of organisations starting their cyber journey.
Thank you very much for your insights, Andrew.
You're welcome.
I've been speaking with Andrew Woodward, who's Executive Dean of Science at Edith Cowan University. For Information Security Media Group, I'm Jeremy Kirk.